Good evening, everybody. I'm Alan Newberg, and I would like to use this occasion to welcome the artists, the sponsors, and art lovers to this virtual awards ceremony for the 2021 CVG Show. I am the co-chair of the organizing committee for the CVG Show, and
I'm Cindy DuVall, co-chair of the committee and the newly appointed gallery director. And at this time, I'd like to say thank you to our technical team working behind the scenes, making this presentation possible. Rose Guastella, Danny Gray, Merle Jones, and Kate Vikstrom. Thank you so much.
This is the 26th year that Collective Visions Gallery is serving our community by providing artists with a place to show and sell their art. Collectors and art appreciators can view quality visual art in a professional gallery setting, and that's a friendly gallery setting as well. We start today by acknowledging that the land on which we all live is the Aboriginal territory of the Suquamish, S'Klallam, and Skokomish people. They have lived in harmony with the lands and waterways of Washington's Central Salish Sea for thousands of years. These tribes still live here and protect the land and waters that their ancestors for future generations.
And then the year 2020 has proved to be a special challenge for Collective Visions Gallery, and it has for nearly all businesses. Because most of the gallery members were in the vulnerable group, we were not able to staff the gallery using the old model of gallery members sitting behind the desk. We were closed well into the fall. The pandemic forced us to hire a gallery director, which enables us to open 4 days a week. We see this as a step forward, and we do not plan to go back to member staffing. The CVG Show is the largest and most significant event in the galleries the gallery sponsors. Despite the challenges, planning for this year's event continued via phone, email, and Zoom. Among the necessary actions the planning committee took was to eliminate the 250 plus person awards ceremony and the reception of prior years. Some of our sponsors reduced the level of their support. Others were unable to sponsor at all. Fortunately, most were able to continue, and we found some new sponsors. Nonetheless, we had to modestly reduce the dollar amounts of some awards and cut other expenses. Alan?
Yes, artists whose work is selected for an award in this ceremony will receive an official CVG Show certificate that's stating their name and the name of the award, and as well as a check, which is probably the most important part of that message. So, at any rate, so the Best of Show award will be $1,500. The Best of Kitsap award is $1,000. The first place in each category of our 3 categories is $900. Second place in each category is $500, and third place is $250. So we're proud that we're able to offer these awards. In addition, we have about $2,400 of dedicated money in purchase prizes that depends on the value of the artwork that's purchased by the sponsors of the purchase prizes. Finally, we have, well, not quite finally, I guess. Then we have, at the end of the show, we have the People's Choice Awards. So during the entire 5-week run of the show, visitors to the gallery will be able to choose their choice for People's Choice Award and vote for for that. Whoever wins that will win a $300 purchase, $300 prize. And then we have gift certificates.
Right.
We have gift certificates for honorable mentions, 10 of those. Those are worth $25 in art supplies.
Okay. On behalf of Collective Visions Gallery, I would like to acknowledge the generous sponsorship and support for the 14th annual CVG show. Our sponsors include Harborside, Anthony's Harborside Restaurant, Arnold's Home Furnishings, Artist Edge Art Supply Stores, Artist Helping Artist, Bradley Scott Commercial Real Estate, Calypso Glass Art, Carmen and Brian Pinto Morgan Stanley, Cultural Arts Foundation Northwest, Dr. Rory Jefferson Dental Office, Federal Benefits Advisory, Friedman Rubin Trial Lawyers, Friends of CVG, Huddleston McKenzie and Associates, Jane Friedman, Kitsap Credit Union, Soriano Brothers Investments, Teresa Bryant, Edward Jones Financial Planning, West Sound Arts Council, and West Sound Home and Garden Magazine.
So I also would like to say thanks to our organizing committee. And that committee includes Cindy DuVall, Kate Bickstrom, Rose Costella, Frank Carsey, Bill Walcott, and Danny Gray, and myself. All of us are members of the gallery. Equally important is our display committee members, Anna Hoy, Dolores Weir, Merle Jones, Cindy DuVall, and myself, plus community volunteer Linda Beachman. Together on these two committees, we've logged in hundreds of hours to make this project a reality.
And one important form of support that strengthens our show is the Purchase Awards. And the Purchase Awards come from Steve Ford, Arnold's Home Furnishings, which are Joyce Hester for Seaside Sentry, Ash Oaksmith for Winter Bright, Karen Schmidt, Salmon Bay, and then from Jane Friedman, she's an artist collector, Donald McDonald for Dying Tulip, and Cindy DuVall, Sunrise. And then Teresa Bryant, Edward Jones Financial Planning Office, Inga Carmack. Oops, that one's showing Don Turiega, Black Cap Chickadee. And then Inga Carmack, Dandelion. And then people can now type in questions into the chat room, and we'll answer those later.
So that will be for the question and answer period, which will follow everything else. So at this point, I'd like to introduce, it's my distinct privilege to be able to introduce Michael D'Alessandro. Michael was formerly the executive director of North Winds Arts Center in Port Townsend, but he is now the director of exhibits at the newly reorganized organization called Northwind Art, Port Townsend. So it's a combined arts center and art school. After a 12-year career in architecture, Michael left the profession to pursue a second career in art, in the arts with degrees in fine arts, design, and art history. He comes to the arts nonprofit management with a unique blend of talents. Michael is also a writer, a publisher, a teacher, a curator. He moved to Washington in 2014 to become the executive director of the North Winds Arts Center, and now he has a new job. So before that, he worked for a number of nonprofit organizations in Portland, Oregon, including the And then the Frolic Gallery, he taught creative writing, graphic design, and publishing at Maryhurst University. He has an MFA in Ropa University. So Michael, with that, we're turning the mic over to you, and we'll allow you to not only make your comments, but to announce the awards that you've selected for the nine awards.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you all. And I want to say thank you to the organizers of this 14th annual CVG show for selecting me as your juror. Thank you to the artists who submitted over 500 pieces of art during this difficult time we all find ourselves in. I thoroughly enjoyed the juring process and communing with the artist in this way. A group show like this one is really an exposition. It's a feature event that celebrates artists and artworks, mediums and styles, process and product. For me, the pinnacle moment is seeing the selected works hanging in the gallery, talking to one another, grouped together, and holding space after spending so much time with them digitally in the virtual portal. I have organized and juried large group shows for years. Each time there is a character to the show itself that takes over once it's installed, and this one has its own character. I think that is what makes this work so exciting for us, for artists, jurors, and organizers alike. Even though this year's show has been impacted by the challenges mentioned, and that we have to gather in this way to complete the celebration via Zoom, I am so glad that the organizers insisted I choose the awards in person, and that the gallery will be open for the 5 weeks to the public to safely view the show. Choosing the awards proved more difficult than I expected. In December, when I entered the initial selection process with over 500 pieces to look at, I saw such a high quality of submissions across the spectrum that selecting 135 pieces meant I was choosing what I felt were the best in show. That made it very difficult to pull pieces from the 135 and single them out for awards. I felt as though I was jurying a smaller exhibit within the show. This is just to say that all 135 pieces are intimately my choices on so many levels and represent for me the best work of the high quality that was submitted overall. A little bit about my process. So my first look at the full slate of submissions is like opening a gift. It is the exciting moment for me when I enter these juried show processes. I respect how much work and effort goes into the submission and the artwork from each artist. And once I view each work, I consider that there's several limitations, which I have. One, that I'm seeing these works once removed in a digital environment, void of detail and scale and tactility. And two, that I'm seeing these works as standalone, which will dialogue with other standalone works in a show presentation. My approach to selection starts there. At Northwind, we have hosted countless juried exhibits over the past 20 years. The majority of them were performed live. And the sheer feat of dropping off the work, the artists have to come and leave the work, laying the works out at the bottom of the gallery walls or on folding tables, having the jurors select as they walk around and walk around again, carting off the unselected works to other parts of the gallery. It is quite an event, and many questions the juror has at that moment are answered by seeing the works in person. But often there isn't enough time to consider some of the criteria you need to judge artwork. And it is a fast and exciting process, but offers its own set of limitations. I appreciate the limitations of the digital jury process. It affords me the time to spend with the artwork and consider some basic criteria around composition, execution, and impact. For all disciplines, I first look at the composition, but especially in the 2D works. There is something about the choice the artist is making about composition that are immediately evident when seeing the finished work. the balance or imbalance, the positioning of the subject, or the treatment of the elements in the work that make up the whole, all of this and more is evident in the submitted image. And in my experience, it holds up when seeing the work in person later. So as a baseline, composition for me when I enter these juried exhibits is really the key. Then I look at execution. This is as tied to the physical details provided along with the submission, like medium, process, and scale, as it is to how the composition is handled. For instance, in a 2D work, a soft pastel or encaustic medium offers certain clues in the digital image, which help me determine the quality of the execution. Whether, for example, soft pastel is trying to achieve realism or the abstract. For 3D works, the photo is often not telling the full story. Medium and scale are important factors in this. And for instance, a welded steel object, and we have two of those in the exhibit, or several of those in the exhibit, it can be treated in different ways. And understanding the process helps complete that picture. And you're only seeing the digital image from afar or in a strange setting, or maybe even not photographed with a background. So the third criteria that I look at is impact. It's more difficult to measure from the digital image. Often the impact is felt when you see the show itself or the piece in person. But impact, although more subjective, is built upon composition and execution. Impact could range from something subtle to something bold, and it holds form in the work for me, or balance, or it makes a statement. For instance, 2D digital and photography can often achieve this right away, but sometimes it takes the physical print, seeing that physical print, how the tonality interacts with the light, which can further that impact. I would say that, for me, the impact is what guided me when I was there selecting the awards the other day. I was moved by the awarded artworks in a way that kept me walking back to them and investigating more about what was impacting me in these pieces. And so when I walked through this gallery several times, I wasn't really immediately taken by what would be obviously the award winners. So it took me quite a while. I was there for a while, and I sat with that whole exhibit. It is a beautiful exhibit, and I hope you all get to see it. Considering all of this, and in selecting works of 135 pieces, is that they are all going to be in conversation with each other. So while maintaining the diversity in discipline, medium, style, and form, putting a show together like this is an act of curating, and one that I enjoy immensely. So once all these initial criteria of composition, execution, and impact are considered, I'm thinking also of this hanging together as one exhibit in a space. I happen to have been to the CVG gallery, but I had no idea how all of these pieces would be hung on the walls. So it was interesting to see the choices made, because once I released this group of art to the organizers, there's a team that put this work on the walls and tell another story with it, which is amazing. So it's really a group effort, and I really thank everyone for putting this wonderful show together. I feel like I did a small part in a lot of ways. So I'd like to jump into presenting the awards, and then we'll get into questions and answers later on in the program. So the photo and digital arts, I had 3 awards in each category: photo digital arts, 2-dimensional arts, and 3-dimensional arts, and then a best of show. I also chose several honorables, which will be read later. For 3rd place in photo digital arts goes to Grasses and Light, Point Wilson, by Richard Kohler from Port Angeles. Second place, Dandelion by Inga Carmack from Bremerton. And first place, Through the Haze, Brian Goodman from Port Townsend. And this is one of those pieces that really, for me, gave me that sense of impact when I saw it in person. So that had that moment for me when I saw that quality of light and how it was really emanating from this piece. In the two-dimensional arts, third place, Piano 12 by Roger Travis from Nordland. Second place, Black and Copper by Raquel Morcillo Gallego from Oak Harbor. And first place, Enough is Enough by Mimi Fox from Raymond. And again, impact with this one, but there's something that kept me coming back to this piece. It's so layered. There's so much information in this piece and so much that emotes from this piece that you, when you see it in person, hopefully you will get that sense as well. In the three-dimensional arts, third place, Faith by Suzanne Stangl from Port Townsend. Second place, Another Tree by Kathy Ross from Shelton. And first place, On My Way by Juan Rodriguez from Bremerton. And, you know, scale played a really big role in this three-dimensional category. And the scale of these pieces, to me, looking at them digitally was somewhat unknown, even though I had the dimension. So seeing them in the round really blew me away with the scale of them. And even in a smaller scale, how something still carries so much impact. And so I was really pleased with the 3D works across the board that I saw when I finally got to the show.
At this time, I'd like to give the list of the honorable mentions that Michael has picked. The first one is Carolyn Ottenreith. Not sure if I'm saying it right, so I apologize, for Silver Ribbon. The next one, Moira Freeman, Fire Dance. That's the wrong picture. Oh. Karsten Boyson for Excelsior. And then David Eugene for Orange Judas 2. And then Celine Santucci for Doleful. Kristen Michael for The Ritual. Patricia Wilson, We Can't Breathe. John Kane for White Sands. And John Corbell for Ordinary Things. And Mitchell Osborne, Split Screen. And then at this time, I'd like to call Greg Enright to the screen to present the Cultural Arts Foundation Northwest Best of Kitsap Award, the second highest award in the CVG show.
All right, thank you. It's kind of weird not to hear anybody clap, but anyway, clap for all those winners so far. The Cultural Arts Foundation Northwest was established in 1985. It's a nonprofit organization that supports the artists in Kitsap County. Through our sponsorships and activities in the Poulsbo Art Festival, which is in November, or the third week in August, and also the November Art in the Woods studio tour. Those are our major fundraisers for our group. With that money that we support scholarships for students K through 12, and we also have grants for artists seeking to further their knowledge and skills and understanding of their medium. On behalf of the CVG, we are proud to sponsor the Best of Kitsap, Washington. This year, as in the past years, it's been the quantity and quality of the art has been outstanding. It is always a tough decision to choose one piece, as I think Michael mentioned. But sometimes art is more than just a painting, hanging on a wall, or a sculpture hanging in a corner. Sometimes it focuses, reflects, and moves the viewer in a new direction. It questions our values and maybe even makes us ponder our future. So this year winner, and I don't know, Rose, if you want me to put the piece up, I could share the screen. Oh, okay, then you know what? I'll do it behind me because I can do this.
You can see it now.
You can see it now?
Yes.
There's some of it. And the winner goes to Gordon Little of Indianola for his mixed media called Old Women. We were really impressed with the types of his colors and his story. I think Gordon tells a unique story that probably reflects the time and the period that we're in. So congratulations, Gordon. Your check will be in the mail after you email me your address. So congratulations and thank you very much.
So now, Michael, we're going to turn back to you and let you present us with the best of show.
Yes, thank you. And I have to say it took walking around the gallery many times to think of this. I often look at the best in show as a juror's choice, really, because it's really hard to say that one piece stood out best overall. Like I said before, I think all 135 for me are the best, and again, just overwhelmed by how high a quality each one presented itself to be in person as well as digitally. So I kept walking around, and one piece stood out to me, stared back at me, actually. It's a portrait, and portraiture is so interesting and so difficult to capture in such ways. For artists who work in it, it ranges. It ranges so in so many ways, from the classical to the abstract. And in this case, this one sort of sat somewhere in between. We did have a really wonderful soft pastel classical portrait, and one, I believe, acrylic or oil, very whimsical portrait that was well rendered. But this portrait had somewhat of a quality in the color and the execution, with the encaustic medium and the way it was presented and the way it was composed. And it is Egon by Andrea Beck, and I just was taken by this piece. Congratulations.
Alan?
Um, so, yeah, so what we're going to do now is Michael has offered to do take questions from the audience, and Cindy earlier asked you to submit those to into the chat room. So I'm not quite sure who's administering the chat room, but we do have some questions from the chat room.
Not at this time. Nobody has typed any in, but people are welcome to raise your hand if you want to and unmute yourself, and we'll take some questions.
I'll just say that this was a fun experience to be part of, and thanks to everyone.
So how long have you been painting?
I've been painting for about 20 years.
I have a question, in just a general question, like how, this exhibit is open to how far a wide a swath of Washington? Is it the entire state, or do you typically get folks from all over the state? I know this one had almost half the amount of submissions as you normally get, or the one previous at least.
So we did have fewer applications, but it's more than half. So last year we had 300 and I think it was 94 artists enter, but last year we allowed them to enter 3 pieces of art per artist.
Oh, okay.
So we had nearly 1,000 pieces of art that the juror had to go through. And responding to that early before we got to the COVID crisis, we had decided that that was too much work for the juror, and we reduced the number of pieces that they could enter from 3 to 2. So in hindsight, I kind of wish we hadn't done that. We did that before, and then we never reconsidered it again when the COVID came in. But anyway, so we had more artwork per artist submitted last year, and we had more artists submit last year. This year we had 296 or something like that, just about 100 less artists submitted than last year. And I think that's very much due to the effects of the crisis itself. You know, that it was harder for artists. It was more expensive for artists. Many artists didn't have the means, I think, to submit. I don't. That's the main thing I attribute to the drop in the number of artists that submitted, but still a very healthy turnout. That's above our average for the 14 years that we've had the show. This is still above average exhibition for the number of people that enter, and is above average for the quality too. Very good quality. So that's. I hope that answers your question, Michael.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Michael, we have a question from the group. How many hours did it take you to select the pieces to be in the exhibit?
That's a great question. I loved going through them multiple times, but in the beginning, I looked at each one, and then I stopped, and then I came back, and then I started my selection process the second time, and there was another round. I had to put them in 3 categories to help me discern, and there was another round where I was mixing and pulling from maybes. I had yes category and maybes, and I just worked it over a period of maybe 2 weeks. I think it was about 2 weeks, and maybe a few evenings. Like a few evenings in a row, three evenings in a row, then a break, then another several evenings. So I didn't really log as many hours. I didn't log all the hours, but I enjoyed it. It was like it wasn't like work, so I didn't really clock those hours, but it was a process, and going back after taking a break helped to solidify some of those things that I was talking about, that helped me make some choices. Just overall, every piece had such quality, so it made it somewhat difficult to draw distinctions. It was overall the 500 plus pieces were of really good quality, and there was a lot of good descriptors in the submission itself, which helped me to kind of frame for myself what this work, how it was made, or if it was a series, or if it was the artist had a place where they can talk a little bit about their process or their intention, And that was really helpful.
So there's one in the chat box here from Brian Goodman. Can you see it?
Oh, yes, here's the question. Do you have any advice for artists when submitting their digital submissions online to best show their work?
That is a good question. A lot of the photographs that I saw in each submission was the photographs were well done. The photographs were many of them were professionally taken. I think that my biggest advice is to get the best lighting, best possible photograph of your work that you can, and if you can, get it done professionally, or I mean, nowadays we can kind of Google and find out how to do most things. But there are, hopefully there are people in our midst as artists that we have access to that can photograph our work professionally. It really helped when, for instance, like an encaustic piece, if you can actually, with that texture, if you can see that texture, it really does help. The lighting has to be just right to capture that. Most of the 2D works will show up well in a photograph, I feel. 3D is very difficult, and there's not a whole lot. There were some that provided videos along with their submission, and I found that fairly helpful in terms of seeing the piece in the round if it was a 3D piece. That alongside a photograph of it, a professional photograph, does help.
Here's a question, follow-up for 3D artists. Would it help to show perspective and size? I wonder if that means a banana for scale. I don't know.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yes, I'd say like some of those that I saw in the video had elements in the video that helped to scale it. And of course, if it's a video done in a studio setting with no scale, it really, the onus is upon the juror to kind of understand a little bit about scale. I mean, if you have the dimensions, but it's still a trick, I have to say, because you will look at a piece, it's 70 some odd inches long by 25 inches high, and you put that in your mind as a juror, but you're seeing an image that's that's like a rectangle, a small rectangle, and on a screen that, if I'm using a 13-inch laptop or a 24-inch desktop, it makes a slight difference in scale, but it's not much. And then when you see the piece in person, it just overwhelms you because it is large. And there are a few pieces like that did surprise me when I visited the gallery, because you kind of forget that dimension sometimes. So that's one of the limitations. So the question, having something next to a little banana for scale, it can help in some cases, but I don't know. I don't know if it's that necessary. I think the onus is really upon the juror to kind of understand that next phase of what the piece represents, which is it's a 4x8 sheet of plywood that's been painted on. You have to understand the size of that to some degree.
Here's a question from Larry Sukat. Michael, comparing all this work to other work you have seen, do you get a particular Northwest feel to the CVG submissions?
Oh, that is a really good question. Seeing this exhibit, the complete exhibit, and I don't. There's a couple of veins that run through it that have a Northwest feel. but there's a lot of departures from that for me.
Mm.
And I noticed in some of the work that attracted me that I was selecting were things that, you know, had that element of departure. And although we are situated in the Northwest, I feel like not every artist is working to reflect that all the time. I mean, a lot of artists are interested in a multitude of things that they're working with. So I saw that in the submissions, and I wanted to reflect that in the show as much as I could. And this is I've seen a few of the CVG exhibits, and I really don't always get that sense that it's just a Northwest focus. So I think this group does a really good job of putting up a very high quality show year over year that that has a lot of diversity in medium and style.
Here's a question. Are there new venues coming up at Northwinds Art Center that we can submit to in 2021?
Yes, we're obviously we're just rolling into a brand new, not only a brand new organization, but a new exhibit schedule. And in fact, we open it in 2 weeks, and we will have some juried exhibits in the pipeline, and hopefully we'd love to bring back so every year we did a what was called Expressions Northwest, which was a very Northwest focused exhibit, but we took from 5 states around us. And hopefully we can revive that in 2022 as we get our feet under us and move forward with our new plans.
Lots of people in the chat expressing thank you to you, Michael, and to CVG for the show and the chance to exhibit.
Yes, it was an honor, really, and I've admired the CVG show for years and been involved on the fringe of working on a panel or giving a lecture, and I'm just so delighted to be in this position and be presenting a wonderful opportunity to look at some beautiful artwork and have it up for 5 weeks. It's a real honor. Thank you, artists. That a lot of work went into that.
Thank you as well.
So I guess I'm just going to ask my question. Can you tell us a little bit about your new organization as compared to the 2 old ones?
Yes, I can. So, of course, this pandemic had a lot of challenges for everyone, but one of the opportunities we took during this time is to look at where we were in our small community of Port Townsend and look at our partners and see an opportunity to take another organization that was doing primarily arts education, and they were the same size as Northwind Art Center, which was primarily doing exhibits but had other programs in the arts, and just saying, well, wouldn't it be great to combine our efforts and have one organization doing those 2 things, doing them well, exhibits and education, and taking advantage of the uncertain future we have in a lot of ways. And then adding a piece to that, which would be artist support, a network of support for artists in many ways, professionally, with classes and other help areas for artists to professionally develop. Thinking about what we were talking about getting your artwork photographed professionally and marketing yourself and so on. And so we're adding that as a third piece of this new organization, as we come online. And I think it really helped us to just focus inward towards the community of artists that we speak to every day, we deal with every day, and make them really the center of this. And it, it it's going to help refocus our energies, I think, as a community.
And Brian Goodman asks, is there a new website for the merged organization?
There is. It's northwindart.org. So the old website was northwindarts.org and ptarts.org. Those two websites are now merged into northwindart.org. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mimi asks, maybe CVG could hold a few classes as an extension of the North Winds Art Center.
Yes, let's talk.
So I'm thinking we should end the question and answer session. Thank you very much. Very interesting responses. And with that, I'd like to just kind of wrap up with several things for everybody. As I've already mentioned, we are open 4 days a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday from 11 until 1. And
11 to 4.
I meant 11 to 4. I didn't mean, I don't know why I said 1. so anyway, 11 till 4. And we're potentially open also on by appointment. So if somebody asks, that's another possibility. We do have some more events lined up that are part of the CVG Show project. The first of those will be February 13th at 2 p.m. on Saturday, and that'll be an artist panel discussion. And I'm going to encourage people to go to our website to learn the details of that. But we'll have three very interesting artists plus me. So we'll be kind of moderating it. So that'll be an open discussion, but it'll be an online virtual discussion. So a live chat. And so we've been doing this for several years, and Michael, in fact, has been one of our panelists in the past. Then the final event is the People's Choice Award ceremony, and that'll be February 26th, the last day of the exhibit. And so we will be taking votes for people who come into the gallery and cast a vote. We are requiring people to come into the gallery to be able to cast a vote, as opposed to doing it online. The ceremony will be a virtual ceremony for that, and we will count out the votes, and we will let everyone know and celebrate the People's Choice. Then in conjunction with that, we'll have an online gallery talk by Amy Burnett, perhaps Bremerton's best known artist, who has been highly active in promoting the arts in Washington State and in Bremerton in particular for 40 or 50 years, and has lots of interesting stories. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody all the artists for participating. We literally, without you guys, we wouldn't have a show. And so you're the single most important component that we have are our participating artists. Thank you to Michael for doing a fine job. And thank you to the committee, and thank you to the support. We get some pretty good support out of our community, as you saw from all of our sponsors list. So thank you to all of those people.
All right.
So we'll see you next year.
Thank you, everybody.